So first of all, I feel like I just didn't explain thoroughly why I decided to have Nora from the Massachusetts Nurses Association here. So first of all, they're the biggest nurses association here in Massachusetts, and a lot of people, when you read the information from the ANA site, they always cite that yes, it is the largest union, largest organization for nurses. But at the same time, they're also a little less. It's only 23,000 nurses, which is a little less than 25%. And yes, that is true, but you got to carry that same logic all the way through, right? So the ANA has much less nurses in the ANA, and we also talked a bit about the emergency, the ENA, the emergency room nurses for Massachusetts. They too have much less. I think it's for the emergency room nurses, it's less than 10%, and from the ANA, it's nowhere close to 25. I don't know the exact number, but the MNA is the largest. So if you're going to say that the MNA isn't representative of all of the nurses, then you can't say that the ANA is. Yes, nationally, ANA is larger, but here in Massachusetts, the MNA is the largest, and the bill is for here in Massachusetts. I just want to put that out there. One of the questions that I didn't mention, we talked about money a lot, so I didn't want to spend the entire time talking about money, but the bill is money, whether we like it or not. Money is a huge portion of what we do at the hospital. It needs to be profitable if it's going to continue on. If we want to save patient lives, we also got to make money, so we can't pretend it's not a thing. But I didn't want to talk about it the entire time. I had this question written down, and I'm really upset that this is one of the questions that I missed. And this question was the money the taxpayer would have to pay. So she explained, and we talked thoroughly about how much the hospitals would pay, the fines, and how those. We talked about all of that, but the taxpayer, which would be $800 to $900 million per year, and it could be over $1 billion the first year it would be implemented. That's something I did not talk about. I had the question written down, and I am sorry I did not bring that up. But I do want to make sure you guys understand when I did bring up how the hospital is going to pay for this. Here are some pictures. You can freeze the video and look at the actual pictures right now of the financial situation of the majority of all of the hospitals here in Massachusetts. If you pause the video and look at it, or if you just click the link in the box below, you will see that 80% of the hospitals in Massachusetts had a surplus at the end of fiscal year 2017 and has had surpluses for years before. The profit margins are huge. The CEOs, so nurses out there, understand the management in the hospital you work at, the management in the hospital that you can see, aren't the ones getting paid the millions and billions when the surplus is that high. It's the CEOs. It's the people in the suits that you never get to see but make the biggest decisions for the hospitals. Those are the people that are getting paid the millions and the bonuses and such. So the surplus is there. The money from the hospital, I don't feel too bad for those guys. I'm going to be 1,000%. If the hospital needs to cough up some money to hire more nurses, I am all for it. I do not feel bad for them. What I do feel bad for, and what does concern me, and that's the reason I talk about the money portion so much, is the taxpayer. Because the taxpayer is already paying into a million different things right now. I don't know if this is the correct bill for the nurses right now. Taxpayer, I'm concerned about. The big guns upstairs, right in the big, getting those big bonus checks. I'm sorry, not sorry. All right, sorry, not sorry. So that's one question I'm sorry that I did not ask. Hopefully, I'll email them, and then next week for Friday's Nursing News, I can give you guys an update. Okay. So things I disagreed with her on that I just want to make very clear, because we were on and off, we went back and forth, and then we just moved on from topics. But I want to make sure I want to let you guys know what I disagreed with her on, and just make it clear so there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the nurse shortage. She was telling me that there's no nurse shortage here in Massachusetts. Nora said that there's no nurse shortage here in Massachusetts. I don't know the research, the studies, the statistics behind that, but since before I started nursing school, all I heard about was a nurse shortage. It's hard for me to believe that in one conversation. It's hard for me to just understand that. Living the life I do live right now, being a nurse, I do feel as though there's a nurse shortage. But she brought up a really good point that I never thought about. If you go to your work right now and just ask the people on your unit, the people on your floor, how many people are on this floor that are working part-time or per diem that would like to work full-time? A lot of nurses, myself included. So that was a really, 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 really good point that she brought up, that yes, there's a ton of nurses already working in hospitals that could switch to full-time, but the nurse shortage thing is still a real thing, and I don't just agree with her on that. I'm giving credit where credit is due, and with that being said, the thing that I also disagree with her on is that's not going to be enough. Even if every single nurse that wants to be part-time or full-time, that is working per diem or working part-time, even if every single one of those nurses become full-time, I don't believe that's going to be enough nurses. It's just insane. I mean, that's an insane amount of nurses. And then last but not least, I don't believe, because we need all those places, and because I believe we don't have the nurses currently to fill all those places, I do not agree, and this one is probably my hardest disagreement with Nora. I do not agree that the length of time they gave us is sufficient. In fact, it's not only sufficient, I feel like it's punitive. I feel like it's going against the goal, right? If they gave enough time, even if it was a year, even if it was, give us your exact plan, give us a plan on January 1st, but you have a year to put that plan into action. You have a year and a half to put that plan into action. I feel like that would have been so much better. I don't know why they decided to give the entire state that they know aren't staffing well enough only 60 days to staff according to what they wanted. That for me is, you gotta give us time. Yes, I want the real change. I want patient safety, but we gotta do it safely. And I feel like having us do it that quickly forces us to do it unsafely, forces us to hire inexperienced nurses, forces us to hire nurses who have not worked in hospitals before and throw them into the ring and let them do their thing. The short amount of time that is given with this legislation is just, that's the one thing I will not budge on, and I disagree with it wholeheartedly. The amount of time is insanity. You can't give us 60 days. You can't give us a little over 60 days to staff 1,000 nurses for all these acute hospitals. I don't agree with it. I think that for me, I can't budge on. There's nothing. It's just not real. It's just not real. Orientation is longer than that. Even if for some way on planet Earth we were able to hire 1,000 nurses the day after the bill was passed, orientation wouldn't be done. You know what I mean? So it's just ridiculous. I think it's just ridiculous for that ask. I'm sorry, I can't agree with that. The last disagreement I have with what Nora said, and obviously this is Nora, she's part of the MNA, she's a treasurer at the MNA, but I'm not going to pretend for 1 second that she represents every member of the MNA, and this was just her perspective and outlook on the situation. Yes, they drafted the bill, the MNA drafted the bill, but obviously she's not the spokesperson for every nurse. She's just not. She's just her person that represents, she's a member of the MNA. But what we disagreed on whether or not it was okay or should the hospitals be fined in situations where staffing is according to the ratios, but if a nurse has to go help, there should be another nurse just on standby. I didn't even understand. I didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of what if this, what if that. We could have played the what if game forever, but so is there supposed to just be a nurse on standby? Are we always supposed to have a nurse that has 2 patients in case someone else gets, I didn't understand that situation, because that seems a little ridiculous, right? But again, she did make a really good point when she did say no nurse is going to if you have a code, yes, I will help out with your patient, but that doesn't mean that patient is on my assignment list, right? Yes, you can go downstairs, but that doesn't mean the patient's on my list. Just because I give one of your patients a med, or just because I walk one of your patients to the bathroom, that doesn't mean it's on my assignment list. So yes, she explained that, yes, those are you helping another nurse doesn't mean you are getting fined. If someone on the unit decided that no, I can't help the other nurse because that basically means it's my assignment and I'm going to report this situation, then yes, the hospital might get fined. But that's not the initiative's problem. That's the nurse who does not want to help's problem. If that nurse sees it as I am getting that patient, I'm responsible for that patient, then that nurse has the right to report it. And if that is seen as the laws being broken, right, then you get fined. But if the nurse is like, yeah, I'm just helping the patient, this is not something I'm going to report, that's ridiculous, she'll be back in 45 minutes, she's taking care of someone who just coded, no one's going to get fined. So yes, pros and cons, but it has to be reported as a problem, and then the Department of Health and the Attorney General has to say, yes, that was not right, you should have had an extra nurse. So it's much bigger than, oh my goodness, it went 5 minutes where 2 nurses were taking care of 5 patients instead of 4. So you gotta understand that. I know I just took a super long time to explain that, but you have to understand that because that's a big concern I had. When my nursing buddies need help, I'm going to help them because I care for both them and the patients, but that doesn't mean I am fully responsible. That means I'm helping my coworker. And then, so I had that full-on conversation, and it was important that we had that conversation. And I'm sorry, there's a fly flying around, and I'm losing my mind. If you can see it, you feel me, but because of the light. But it's just I'm losing my mind looking at it fly around. So, and then just to end this, I just want to talk about where I stand right now when it comes to the bill. Right. So after having that conversation, I'm very, very happy that I had that conversation. I thought it was super important. So I just want to say that morally, obviously, I'm for the bill. Because it's just common sense says if you have more help, then it's safer for the patient because you just have less things to do as one human being. You can only do one thing at a time. If you had another nurse to help you out, obviously that makes things easier, which means you have more time to spend on each patient, which means better patient safety, better patient outcomes, right? That's where just common sense takes you if you're a human being, right? But that's obviously not the situation, right? You can't have an infinite increase in nurses and not have to take anything out if the hospital, which is a business, is going to function, right? So when they start talking about things like firing ancillary staff, and I don't want to say it's a myth, but she did mention, and you guys saw on the screen the graph that showed an increase in California of ancillary staff after the mandate. Is it going to happen here in Massachusetts? I don't know, but that's the information I got from Nora, right? So, and that's what we're going off of until the ANA has a conversation with me, right? If that is the conclusion, right? If we are going to go with that information, then morally, of course, I agree with having better patient ratios for nurses, right? If we're going on that information. If that is true, if hiring more nurses is a possibility without firing all the ancillary staff, without cutting corners and other places, then obviously, then I'm all about it. Then I am all about it. Honesty, I am all about it. But, right? There's always a but, and here's the but. The big but is, even though morally and ethically I believe that that's the right thing to do, I don't know if this bill is the right bill to do it. And the thing I like about the bill is, and the thing that just came obviously to me after the situation is, if a hospital is a business and they need to make profits, right? What are they going to do? They are going to do the bare minimum amount of nurses necessary to take care of the patients that they have. They don't want to have extra nurses on board in case shit happens. Excuse my French, okay? They don't want to have that. They want to make as much profits as possible if we are going to agree that a hospital is a business. So let's not even front with one another because that's what it is, right? You want to have the least amount necessary. A mandate says it gives the business an incentive not to cut short the nurses. But is this the right bill? are these fines the right incentive, or is it becomes, instead of becoming an incentive to hire more nurses, it becomes a punishment to everyone else that isn't a nurse? So that's the dilemma. That's the situation where I'm torn between, right? Because obviously, if this makes nurses happy, but it doesn't affect everyone else negatively, why are we having a conversation? Let's do it. Russ, pass it today. But if this bill passes, nurses become the happiest profession in the world, and everyone has a safe number of patients. But that means the ancillary staff, I have no more CNAs. Infusion nurses get fired. There's no more nurses out in the CNA, VNA. Out in the not in the acute hospital setting. If that becomes a worse situation because of this bill, is it worth it? Or if the taxpayer ends up paying an insane amount higher on their taxes because of the $800 to $900 million annually after the first year? I mean, there's so many things to think about, but I think that's where the dilemma is. So that's the dilemma, and if you break it down, it comes to this simple question, right? The simple question is, the intention of the bill is great. If you hear it, like I said, everyone that hears that, the first thing they're saying, the intention is obviously there. We understand you're trying to help nurses, and because you're helping nurses who do direct care with patients, you are therefore helping the patients, which is therefore helping the community and the state that we live in. That is the intention of the bill. But the question lies, are the unintentional consequences from this bill, which there is no way that there are not unintentional consequences, right? Do those unintentional consequences put us at a higher risk, put us in a worse situation than we were before? And that's the question. That is the dilemma you have to decide for yourself. So credit where credit is due, and I think that's the theme of the goddamn conversation that we had today. But like I said, the MNA has been efficient. Literally an hour after she left, I got an email from David who said, "Oh, I heard about the interview. It went well. Let me know when it goes out. We'd like to share it. Doesn't matter if you said if it was positive for us or negative for us. We would like to share it. Nora is happy with it." I was like, amazing. Thank you again, right? The ANA to this for last 45 minutes ago. It's 11:55 p.m. September 2nd. 45 minutes when I last checked my email. I still haven't returned an email. And don't get it twisted, all right? I'm not so high ego where I believe just because the ANA hasn't responded to Q the nurse that they're afraid or whatever. Okay, so obviously if they don't want to come on camera on the show, I get it, respect. But I sent them an email to 3 different emails, and it wasn't, I need you on camera, I don't want to hear your information. I first asked as a nurse, I was concerned and I wanted to hear their side of it. That was number 1. Number 2 is I asked if after they give me the information, like the MNA did, for me to read for myself and then I could report it to you. I said, if or after I get that information, you guys are willing to send someone out to have a conversation with me on the show, then great. They haven't responded to either email. And when I say either email, I really tried. I sent it to the info email that's on their website. I sent it to 2 or 3 different board of directors on their website. And I used an email that they had on their Facebook page. I've called them. 2 different numbers, one on their website, one on their Facebook page, left a message at both, and I messaged them on Facebook. So I have done my due diligence, and they haven't responded to me as a nurse that is intrigued and that wants to get information from them, and or a nurse that would like to have them have a conversation just like I did with the MNA. If you're getting better results, please let me know what I'm doing wrong, because I have reached out. So like I said, credit where credit is due. The MNA came out. It's September 2nd. So we have some time till November, right? As long as I get a response, I don't care. I know it's crazy. I mean, you guys are fighting the hard fight, and you guys are the smaller organization. The MNA is huge. You don't have time to come to talk to Q the nurse. Fine. Got it. Heard you. Let me just get some kind of answer, please, and thank you. Even if it's a no, but you want to send me information, I would like to read from the other side what you guys have to say, what you guys have, right? I went on your coalition website, and I went there, and I got the information I could get. I thought it was the best you guys had because it was on your page. But the MNA showed up, the MNA had the conversation, and the MNA keep talking back. Even though they're great and they're doing all that, that doesn't mean it changed my mind. I told you where I stand. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for taking out the time. I want to hear your conversations. And yes, I'm sorry I missed a couple of those questions, but let me know, because I'm still talking to them, and every Friday up until November 6th, and whenever I do get an update, I will. So if you have more questions, I'm always emailing David. He can send me the questions. Send him the question. He'll give me the answer. He'll give me the official MNA statement or what they want to hear to the questions we have, and then I can report it to y'all. So comment section below, let me know, what are you still concerned about after hearing their side. If there's no, if you're done having the argument, you've decided, great, let me know why you've decided. All right. And if you still have questions, like I said, down below, I'll contact them every Friday up until November 6th. The nursing news, I will give you guys updates. Thank you guys so much. Again, shout out to MNA for coming out. Thank you. ANA, I really want to hear from you. So please and thank you. Catch you guys later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And most important, especially for this, comments down below. Deuces.